Hello and welcome to Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast. And today our very special guest is Alex Ju, and Alex is from ES Foundry, and ES Foundry is manufacturing solar cells in the United States of America, which is kind of unusual. So welcome to the show, Alex. How did you come about manufacturing solar cells in the United States?
Yeah, so actually, I've been in the industry for quite a while, since 2008. I joined Suntech America at that time and doing solar cell and module productions, mainly in parts in China. But in Suntech,
I've been to the Suntech factory. Maybe I walked past you. I know
okay,
Dr. Shi. I know
yeah,
Wei Tai. I
oh yeah,
know, let's see, Thomas Nielsen. I met
ah,
Walker Frost. He gave me a tour there. And
okay,
and I just got finished. Actually, yesterday I was talking to Mick McDaniel. You probably know all those
oh,
people.
okay, all the colleagues in
Yeah.
Suntech.
So Suntech, just for people that don't know, Suntech used to be the world's largest manufacturer of solar modules.
In Suntech, we've been build solar modules in US back to the 2010 and shut down in the 2013.
hmm Yeah. And so Suntech is still exists, but just I guess in a different form, I believe.
Yeah, different company run, different people run, and much smaller in
hmm
scale.
Yeah.
And they have no presence in
Oh, yeah.
US anymore. Yeah.
Oh, and I also know Martin Green from going to the SNEC shows. Yep.
Yeah.
He handed me an award one time.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of solar celebrities out of Suntech.
Yeah. So we've been doing, and also when Suntech was bankrupt, was acquired by another company called SFCE, Shunfeng. And at that time, Shunfeng invested in Suniva before. So I helped to do the expansion on Suniva back 2016 to increase their 100 megawatts capacity to 400 megawatts. That's just a pause, but just before 2023, we started ES Foundry. I noticed there's so many module manufacturers going to build the module capacity here,
Great.
but very few cell supply. I think that's opportunity here.
Like, how many cells are even made in the United States? It's kind of almost unheard of.
We right now only know like Suniva, they restart production sometimes last year. They have some productions. Besides that, I think for Crystalline Silicon, we are the second manufacturer start running. Yeah.
Wow. So you and Suniva is the other company?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's some thin film like First Solar and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
of course. Yeah. First Solar been here for a long time. And but in terms of Crystalline Silicon,
I think right now, so far, it's two in production.
Yeah. And so you keep hearing about these solar modules that are like made in America, but they're not all made in America because they're buying the cells from some other place.
yeah, technically they should call assembly in America.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's not what the salespeople are saying.
Of course.
And then I noticed that a company that's called Solar for America, they just went under.
Oh, yeah.
So, but anyway, that's pretty neat. Where are you manufacturing?
We are based in the Greenwood, South Carolina.
South Carolina. Great. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm not too familiar with greenwood, but those are two good things, green and wood. And so,
Yes. If you come here, you will see green and a lot of wood.
Okay,
For
good.
sure. Yeah.
great. And that's the name of the town.
Yeah.
And then you have this factory that's making the cells. And so there's a lot of different components that go into the manufacture of a solar module. And this cell is a part of it, but it's the most important part, I guess. And then price wise, I guess it's a good percentage of the cost of the whole solar module, just in general.
Yes. I think typically cell is the largest cost component of the solar modules.
Yep. And then the cell is also made out of silicon. And so
Yeah.
there's refined silicon that you're buying. And is it hard to get silicon that's made in the US, or where does the silicon come from?
We buy the wafer from Southeast Asia right now.
Yeah.
There's no wafer manufacturing in the US yet.
Yeah, that's crazy. There's no wafer manufacturers in the US, so there's
No,
not even a choice.
no, no
Hmm.
choice.
Maybe I should start wafer factory.
Yeah. There's 3 and 4 different companies saying they try to build a wafer factory here, but I don't think anyone is really in production or really some even just on paper. Yeah.
I have an idea. Why don't you make some wafers?
It's it's not our professional,
Uh-huh.
also very
Mhm.
high cost in terms of productions. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and so for people that don't know, you get this refined silicon, which is like, what is it, 7 nines pure, something like that?
Yeah, 6 9 at least in the purities.
6 9, so that would be like 99.9999% pure.
Yeah.
And then they take that and then they turn it in a wafer.
Yeah, changing into the ingot, grow into the ingot first, then
Hmm.
cut into the wafer. Yeah,
Yeah, so then everybody these days is doing monocrystalline. So
yeah,
they're sort of making like a candle out of
yeah,
lava, is
exactly,
one way I kind of look at
exactly.
it. And then they'll slice it very thin.
Yeah.
Same thing they do for computer chips. And then you take those thin slices and then you turn that wafer into a cell. So,
Yes.
what does that process look like? And I know that I've actually seen that happen in the same place you probably maybe first saw it happen at the Suntech factory.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So basically, you have the wafer. First thing you're going to the production line is doing some cleaning and then form a texturing, a rough surface at the wafer surface. Then you put some diffusion to form PN junction.
So, how do they do that with the surface? So, this is something that you're doing. You clean it
Yes.
and then,
Yeah, basically we put some chemical on the surface with
Mhm.
additives. So they remove some silicon from the surface
Mhm.
with a certain angle. So that way they can form some pyramid structures.
Yeah, I've heard it being called like chemical etching. Is that what they still call it?
No, we call it more texturing.
Texturing.
Chemical etching more to the next phase after
Okay.
production. We have another called etching. Yeah.
Okay. Because like when you buy a wafer, it's smooth and it's more like
Yeah.
shiny like
Yeah.
a mirror
Very
reflecting light.
shiny. Yeah.
And so you make lots of peaks and valleys where the photons can bounce around and get captured.
Yeah, exactly. That's a way to help to increase the efficiency.
So they can absorb those photons. Yep.
Yeah, when you see it, it will not be shining after those texturing process. It's more like a little bit roughing or dark.
So if somebody's selling shiny solar cells, they're not giving you your money's worth.
No, no, Simon, you see the solar cell is also like dark or black, whatever.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
never be shining
Great.
again. Yeah.
So now you have this wafer, and you first off you texture it.
Mhm.
And I know that we're doing some building here. I was just there making a solar training center, and they're texturing the walls, with I guess, drywall mud, I guess they call it. But anyway, that's another process. So you texture it, and then what happens after that?
Then we call it the diffusion. Basically, it's a furnace process. You put the phosphorus,
Phosphorus.
migrate into the surface of the wafer. So then it form PN junction.
Okay, and so first of all, too, when you buy the wafer, then it's going to be either N doped or P doped, I guess.
Yes. Right now, our is P doped. Yeah.
It's P doped because it has boron, which is one less electron, so it's a little bit more positive. And then you put phosphorus diffusion on it, on the textured surface, and then that makes the N layer, and N is for negative. Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
After that, then you are doing select using
Laser to cut certain pattern at the surface of the cell.
Oh, and so you're using a laser to make a pattern to cut the surface of the cell, and
Yeah.
what is that doing?
So basically, this will help the contacts between in the future when you're doing the screen printing.
Oh, when you're screen
there's a
printing
better,
silver.
yeah.
Okay, so it makes a better
better
contact.
Yeah.
So when you're so you take a laser, and does it take some of the phosphorus off? Is that what it's doing?
No, it's just a push. It's a cut the surface and make it somewhere is more dense, somewhere is less dense. So change a little bit on the doping profile.
So when you put the silver on, are you putting it in the places where the laser has etched off a little bit?
Yes, exactly. They have to exactly match each other. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. So you do the laser and you take off a little bit of the, I guess, the phosphorus or like,
Change the doping profile. And then the next step, because when you diffuse the phosphorus can be at the front side. They can also deposit on the edge, also at the back, because you cannot 100% control. So with all the additional phosphorus at the back, which you don't need, and at the edge, you also don't need. So the next is the so-called etching process. So every piece is going to a flow of the bath, just clean it.
let me ask you one more question about that. When they diffuse the phosphorus on it, I've never been clear about this.
Yeah.
Why can't they just put it on one side and not have it go on the back and the sides? Like, why can't they put, like a painter puts tape on things?
It's difficult because the production is like, if you see, we have a huge boat. You'll have several hundreds or thousand pieces of wafer inside. And during the chamber, at one side coming the gas. When the gas dilute the whole chamber, then form a plasma, then have the phosphorus come out to diffuse. Although gas coming in this way, sucking that way, but however, the molecule will go anywhere, any direction. So you're unavoidable at the back of the cell.
Like you can't just set the cell down on a flat surface and not get it
if
diffused
you're
on the back.
doing that, you lost the capacity. Think about it. Right now, this kind of boat, we can put 1,000 pieces into it to do the diffusion. If your every piece is, you can get better performance, but you lost the capacity and you need more equipment to do it. Yeah.
What if you put two cells right next to each other? Then they would kind of shade each other.
It has other kind of difficulties. So solar is an interesting process. A lot of times manufacturing is you try to find the most efficient way to do it. And then people figure out diffusing this way, then backside clean piece by piece. That's would be most effective way to reduce the capex. Yeah.
Great, because I always knew that they did it that way, and they would put phosphorus all over the whole cell, every side and edge, and then scrape it off everything but one side. And I always thought, like, why did they do it that way? So now I sort of know, I guess.
Yeah, that's productivities and the cost, because cost is so important for us.
So you can pretty much like line them all up side by side, sticking up in the air. And if you laid them down, you could only fit a couple cells in there.
Where
this way you could fit hundreds instead of each cell. I guess.
1,000, one cell per tube. Yeah.
Great. Okay. Well, thanks for clearing that up. I've wondered all these years.
Then you're doing the clean, which solve the edge and the backside phosphorus.
So then they kind of like scrape the phosphorus off the backside and the edges. And how did they do that? Was that using a laser? Or?
No, it's just chemical reactions. It's like the wafer just float on the surface of the solvent, and the chemical just react at the back and the side.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Pretty tricky. And then it's probably mostly robots doing this, I guess?
No, it's just automations. The cell just flow from one end to the next.
But you don't need humans to do that.
No. No, that's all chemical. You cannot use human.
So that's kind of neat. It's just floating on top of a solvent.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And then come out of the machine and then move to the next step we call oxidations. Basically, put the oxygen to form silicon dioxide, very thin silicon dioxide film. So it's passivations. Yeah.
Okay. So then you put silicon dioxide, and that's just to kind of seal it up, or is it?
Yeah, just seal it up.
Is that after you do the screen printing of the silver?
No, not yet.
Before.
The screen printing is the last step.
We're
not there yet.
So there's silicon dioxide in between the silver and the phosphorus.
No, we don't have the silver Right now only have the phosphorus there. Then
Okay.
above that, you put silicon dioxide.
Okay. Uh-huh. All right.
Yeah.
Great.
And then after that very thin film of the silicon dioxide, you put silicon nitride on both the front side and the back side of
Silicon
the cell.
nitride. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's also another preservation layer. Yeah.
So we got
Yes.
silicon dioxide and silicon nitride.
Nitride.
Okay.
Silicon nitride is typically when you see the color is a blue. So that's why eventually the cell looks like a blue cell or
Oh, yeah.
even
Yeah.
dark. So all the color change is due to these silicon nitride depositions.
So, and I know I've been told that sometimes that the solar cells are blue because they can't use the blue light because they work more on the red end of the spectrum. So they would rather get rid of the blue light. Is that why they're using silicon nitride, which is blue?
Not, yeah, maybe some reason contribute, not exactly. This layer is more still preservation to help to reduce those electron recombinations.
Okay.
Because eventually, when you generate solar cell, majority of the electrons still recombine with your host. You can only capture certain percentage of the electron being generated. Yeah.
Okay. So that like increases the band gap, I guess you could say?
It increases a little bit and help to reduce the recombination. And that means it increase the more electron being collected, increase your efficiency.
And it used to be that solar cells were a lot more blue than they are. They're looking blacker as time goes on. Is that?
Yes. Yeah, that's also one way if people change which wavelengths they want to have a response. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So then after the silicon nitride then?
After silicon nitride, we just going to the last step, screen printing.
Screen printing silver.
Yeah, screen printing silver at the back and the front. Yeah.
Oh, because if you're doing the back side, then it's for bifacial.
Yes.
So
right now, majority of our cell is bifacial.
So most of your cells are bifacial. Okay, great.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing a story from somebody that they came up with the screen printing process in Southern California. They were trying to figure out how to mass produce solar cells. And they went to like places where they made things that make t-shirts, screen printed ink on t-shirts. And they tried using those, and that's how they adapted it. That was a story I heard. I can't say that it's true, but
maybe, I don't know. Yeah.
We interrupt you for a very important announcement. Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast has been brought to you by Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast. That's right, Sean White is sponsoring his own podcast, and he wants to remind you to go check out some of his classes. You can go to SolarSean, that's solar, SEAN.com, and then click on the links to check out his classes. You can check out his heat spring classes, and you can also hire him to teach classes for you, like at your company, something like that. Now back to the show. Okay, great. So now you've got the screen printed silver on the front. And what do you call the screen printed silver that's on the front? Is there a name for it? Like the grid of it's these little thin lines.
Yeah, some is fingers. You can call it fingers. Or bus bars. Yeah.
And I remember a long time ago there was companies experimenting with like thin pieces of copper and things like that.
Oh yeah, yes. I think a lot of people try to using even like no bus bar printing, their so-called zero bus bar, but that's all kind of the new technology working with like HJT, try to reduce the civil usage of the solar cell. Yeah.
And I guess with this screen printed silver, they make these little lines as thin as they can be so they don't shade the solar cells.
Yeah, they try to do.
And I imagine over time there's just improvements in technology where they can get it thinner now than it was 10 years ago and things like that.
Of course. Yeah.
And then when you're doing bifacial, you get silver on both sides, I guess. So it's twice as much silver in the solar module?
Almost, but at the backside, typically pattern would be slightly changed because you don't have so many light
Uh-huh.
really going to the back. Front
Okay.
silver is still more
More important.
expensive and more
Mhm.
important. Yeah.
Yep. And then do you have an idea of about like for an average solar module, how much silver it uses or
We have the number on the per cell, but I just
Mhm.
don't remember it.
And I guess the number is probably going down as you're getting better at manufacturing and technology gets better over
Yes,
time. Yeah.
yes,
Great.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then you've got the silver there on both
Mhm.
sides
Yeah, on
with
both
for the
sides.
bifacial. And if it's not bifacial, I guess is it aluminum on the back?
Yeah, that's aluminum already being in the back in our process during our backside film. We already introduced aluminum oxide into the process.
Oh, okay. And also with bifacial, how does that work too? Is it some people would look at it, is it two different solar cells sort of, or is it like a single solar cell? Are there two p-n junctions? I think there's two p-n junctions, is that right?
Yes, so basically you can at the back when you have the light coming out, you allow the light going to the cell and also collected by the bus bar.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole thing is still connected because one for the module level, you connect one back of the cell to the front of the next cell's the front. Yeah.
Oh, uh-huh.
So basically they're connected. Yeah.
Yeah, but
It's
like with a single bifacial cell, is there an extra p-n junction?
uh no, you still consider the front as a main pin junction.
But there's not an extra one. There's not
Yeah. Yeah.
like on the back side, how does that work? Do the photons, they don't go through the back to the front, do they?
In back of this cell going to the front of the next cell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because they're using the bus bar to connect it.
Okay, like I understand how like two different cells are connected, but
Yeah.
with just like a one single,
One cell that will not from the back to the front. No.
yeah. But like when you have monofacial solar cells, there's like
Yeah.
just like a p-n junction, phosphorus on the front, boron below
Mhm.
that. So when
Yeah.
you have bifacial, do you have phosphorus? You don't have it on both sides, I guess.
No. Yeah. No.
So how does that work? Does the light comes from the backside through the P layer and then it hits the p-n junction
So
that way?
yeah, so that's why at the back you can only collect very limited the
Hmm.
electrons being generated. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, like I think sometimes they'll say like different data sheets will be like from the front side it's
5%.
20%. So the backside, even with direct sunlight, would be
Yeah.
still
Normally people say increase the generation by 5%. Yeah.
and that's just because mostly you don't have direct light there though.
Yeah, you don't have the delta line, you don't have the reflectance, so the electron being generated will be very limited.
But sometimes people put up like bifacial fences, like agrivoltaics, and they'll have like sunlight shining on one side in the morning, the other side in the afternoon.
Actually, I don't have the data for
Okay.
this kind of
Mhm.
VOC. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you want to do that, you're probably better using a special design cell, not the normal cell. Yeah.
Okay. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Too bad the sun doesn't shine on both sides at once. I guess that would have been, what is that? Star Wars. They had two suns up there.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
So some of the normal you have multiple sun. One of the was Trinity. You have the three sun at the sky.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to get another one. Yeah. We're working on that. We have our best scientists trying to figure out how to cause a little bit of fusion on Jupiter, I guess, probably. Okay. So now we've got up to the point where there's silver. And then what happens after the silver?
Also, you put the paste, typically that's fine furnace. So basically, you're going to very high temperature, then
Oh,
just remove the solvent, have a good contact between
okay.
the seawall with your silicon.
Oh,
Yeah.
so you put it through, do you know what temperature? Is it like 1,000 degrees or something?
No, it's eventually 600 degree, I believe.
And
Yeah.
that probably is Celsius. So
Yeah.
that might be about 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then you're baking it on the silver, but all the silver bus bars, they're not connected to each other. And then you have to put is the next step a bus bar that connects them
Oh no,
together?
that's a module. You're basically on the front, they're still connected. So that's where you can test it,
Oh.
efficiency. Yeah.
So
They're
like
still
like
connected.
after you screen print the silver, you just have all these lines going in one direction. So
Yeah.
then do you put like a bus bar on top of it?
Or when you're doing the module
Oh, that's
production,
during the
you're not
module
gonna,
production. Okay.
yes. In the cell, we just put the silver on it. That's all. But all the silver actually is connected to each other.
Oh, they're all
Otherwise, you
connected.
cannot test it. Yeah.
Oh, so in somewhere in there,
Right
they're
there.
connected together. They're very small, hard
Yeah.
to see.
Yeah. They're very tiny line, but they're connected. And so then you can flash test it to see the efficiency.
Okay. And so part of that screen print, it's not just a bunch of parallel lines. There's also connections between
Connected.
the lines.
Yeah. Yes,
Okay.
definitely. Yeah.
Great. And so then you have that. Is it a solar cell yet?
Yeah, after doing screen printing, that's after go through all those things, is considered as a cell, and then you can testing the efficiency of the cell.
Do you ever catch your workers throwing a pizza into the oven while they're baking solar cells?
That would be too dangerous.
Yeah, they would probably lose their job if they were doing that. So, and so that's it. You're done.
Yeah, that's done. Then after testing, just saw different category due to the quality standard. Yeah.
Yeah, and so they flash test each one. So they'll like flash a light on it, measure the voltage and the current and how much power it would make. And the better cells go into the one pile, and the ones that are not as good as the best go into a different pile. And then they will, after they sort them out, then I guess then you package them somehow and and then ship them off to whoever your customer is, probably some module manufacturer in the United States.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, great. How did they ship them? Do they put them next to each other? Is there air gaps between them?
So for the cell itself, we put like 140 cell all together. They're just connected to each other, and we put the plastic bag to contain it. Then we sell it.
So you said they're connected to each other? They're already...
No, they're basically one piece is on another pieces.
Oh, they're just stacked up right on
stacked
top
up.
of each other.
Yeah.
Okay. So great. And so then there you have it. So that's how to make a solar cell.
Yeah, exactly.
And have you ever made computer chips?
Yes, I make computer chip before.
Oh, yeah.
I work for Micron to make
for
all this
Micron.
memory. Yeah.
Uh-huh. So how is that different?
Very different. I mean, in semiconductor, we normally talking about step is 100, and eventually, if you go to CPU, you are talking about 200, 300, or even more. Just depends on your technologies. But now, as I say, solar cell is still from a PN junction, but a much bigger PN junction, and we form in a larger scale. The process is similar, but this is more cost sensitive. We have to figure out a way to make the solar cell more cheaply. But semiconductor, I mean, they're all concerned about technology, how thin your line will be, and how smaller, how quickly the speed, because somebody will pay for those most efficiency or latest technology in the semiconductor. But solar, people competing for the price.
Okay. Yeah, I've always wondered, like in 100 years or 200 years, if somebody will come up with a cell that's a solar cell and a computer chip at the same time. And so you could have like a megawatt out there that's doing some calculations for you. So
it's difficult. Semiconductor need more strain environments control than solar.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's not going to happen in our children's lifetimes, but you never know. 200 years is a long time, the way that things change. So, I mean, I think one thing that people really like is that you're making solar cells in the United States, and nobody's doing that. And it seems kind of silly that nobody is doing that. So I guess I want to thank you for doing that. It's something that we really need. I know that there's been some charts going around showing how much is made in different places, and it's just really nice to see that some of this stuff is being made here. And then one of the things that's been happening just over the years and even recently is, like tariffs and things like that. And I would imagine that might even help your company.
So we are still evaluating on the tariff impacts on the business. And more important, we hope we have a very clear industry policy or business environments, because if very dynamic on the tariff rate will make everyone very difficult to predict how to correctly, how to do the logistic supply chains. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to know what's happening. And like, there's nobody making wafers in the US, like you said. So you have to buy them through a tariff. And then you don't know if like one day it's twice as much as the other day. That's not good for business. Huh?
Yeah, especially when you have locking down your price a few months ago.
Yeah.
It's difficult to go back to say renegotiate on the price.
Yeah, that's tough. Yep. And so let's see the different types of cells. I know there's like half cells, multi-junction, bifacial, perovskite, PERC, TOPCon. How are you dealing with all that? So I know you're doing bifacial. Are you doing monofacial also?
Currently, no. We're only doing bifacial. It's a PERC technologies.
And so that's passive emitter rear contact is PERC. And are you doing half cells?
Half cell normally happen in the module company. When they get our cell, normally the first step, stringer process, they have a device cut the cell into the half.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that. So is it difficult to cut them in half?
It's very simple. I think right now you're using laser. It's very nice, easy to do that.
And it doesn't like melt and get silver sticky from one side to the other. That's good.
It's a very simple. It's just a laser cut it, then take it. Yeah, it's a very standard process right now.
Yep. Are there rumors of anybody that's going to start doing more like silicon refining, doing more making of wafers in the United States?
There's several startups working on it. Yeah.
Yep. Well, if those people are out there listening, hurry up.
I think they definitely work hard to get the factory running. Yeah.
And how long did it take you to get your factory up and running?
For us, probably a year.
That's sounds pretty fast to me.
Yeah, we are faster than other people.
You must be a very good CEO.
Thank you.
And so I know that there's a lot of these different incentives like tax credits, things that were in the IRA for things that are made in the United States, like the solar cells. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? I know for like your average person, it gets a little bit confusing. I know there's like the 30% investment tax credit that everybody knows about. It's been around for a long time. But then there's more tax credits for things like making cells in the US. What is that tax credit?
So for the 30% ITC credits, that's basically only the end customer, like developers. When they're doing projects, then they can qualify. For manufacturer like us, currently the only credits we have is a so-called 45X. When you produce a solar cell, you'll get 4 cents a watt on the credits. Yeah.
Okay, so that goes to you then. So you get 4 cents per watt for, and then how many watts is a solar cell these days?
Right now, per cell for us is like averaging like 7.69 watts.
Okay, so that's what, like 20 something cents per cell that you're getting.
Yeah.
And then is that a tax credit?
Yeah, it's tax credits. You can also be paid directly to you when you apply your annual tax. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's like 20 something cents per solar cell, either a tax credit or even a check.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah. But that's what only happen in sometime next year after your tax season. Yeah.
Okay, great. And so you said that's something around, what was it, 4 cents per watt?
4 cents per watt. Yeah.
So how much per watt is a solar cell, or like what would be a range, or do I have to buy a whole gigawatt to find out?
You mean, what's the question?
Like, so 4 cents per watt is the tax credit, or they'll send you a check. That's the benefit that you get. And then how much does a solar sell for per watt?
Oh, and that's really depends on when do you need it,
Yeah.
what's the orders, what's conditions. That's a lot of different price. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just like a module price. There's no one module price for all
Yeah.
the different.
Yeah. And if it's made in the US and how efficient
Yeah.
it is, if it's bifacial, all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. Okay.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So I think that we've had a really good lesson here learning about this. And so you built your factory really quick in a year. Was the building already there, I guess?
Yes. So we basically retrofit existing building. The building used to belong to the Fujifilm. They're doing the film business.
Oh, film.
Yeah, as you know, right now everything goes digital. Nobody play with
So-
the film.
How long has it been since they were making film in that building?
Oh, they've been there since the 90, 80, and almost 40 years. They gradually slow down after the digital come in,
Yeah.
and the final shutdown, I think, 2 years ago.
Oh, they were making regular camera film until 2 years ago.
Maybe even a little bit earlier, but
Mhm.
definitely that's reduced significantly. They
That's-
have a big building here. Yeah.
hmm
We lease our building. We just lease one of the many buildings there. Our building is a 400,000 square foot.
Huh. It sounds kind of interesting. And also, there's probably a lot of similarities between making solar cells and making film, different layers of things.
Yeah, there's a lot of chemical process being involved. Certainly, we all have the wastewater treatments need to be done during the process. Yeah.
So it sounds like you were in a good spot getting a good building for what you were doing there.
Yeah, definitely that building help us a lot because they have the power, they have a lot of the facility ready to run. That reduce the time for us to run the productions.
Great.
Yeah.
And so are you ramping up right now? Like, is that?
Yes, yes, yeah.
And so when you're all ramped up, about how much per year do you expect to be able to produce?
Yeah, we right now only reach 1 gigawatt capacity. We are still in the 2025. We try to raise it to 3 gigawatts.
Okay, so from 1 to 3 gigawatts per year, and that would be if you were working 24/7.
24/7. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you consider the yield, the percentage of cell ready to be sell, probably we say it's a 3 gigawatt capacity, but really output probably only 2.4 gigawatts.
Yeah, you need a little bit of downtime to
Yeah,
repair
yeah,
things
yeah,
and stuff
yeah.
like that. Right.
Yeah.
And so how long ago did ES Foundry form?
We formed in the October 2023.
Okay, so fairly recently. And what does ES stand for? I always think of energy storage. And I know that solar cells don't store energy.
Yeah, we now say it's all in power solar.
Oh, Empower Solar.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, you are really empowering the solar industry by making solar cells in the US, which I think everybody wants to see more of. There's more solar cells in the US.
Yeah, definitely people want to have more domestic solar cell being produced to support the industry.
Yeah, great. Okay. Well, I hope you keep growing your business. And
Thank you.
I wish you the most success. Are there any other things you would like to talk about?
So for the industry, I think as you know, we have so many up and downs. What we hope is the industry have more stable business environment so people can have the time to do long-term planning because the factories will not be easy. Everyone, customers, upstream supplier, every participant in the industry need have the very stable policy environment so we can plan.
Yeah, I think that's very important. And one of the things that I'm doing is I'm the president of a nonprofit that's 51 years old called NorCal Solar. It's an American Solar Energy Society chapter. And there's two things that we're changing our mission to. And one of them is ethical solar sales, like getting the solar salespeople to be more ethical. And then the other one is to not make quick changes in the industry. And you see it from all different places. And so we call it sometimes the solar coaster, where things go up and down really fast. And one thing that happened in California was that they got rid of net metering suddenly one day. They just said, okay, we're not going to give you money for exporting, or we're going to give you very little money for exporting. When before that, you got full credit, which is maybe 40 cents a kilowatt hour, which really changed the industry and lays a lot of people off. And I'm not necessarily against getting rid of net metering as long as they did it responsibly and slowly instead of quick changes. You know, it's these quick changes that make it so you can't plan your business. In fact, a lot of people think that SunPower, their installer part of SunPower, because their manufacturer is still around, they just changed the name.
Yeah.
But SunPower went under, and other companies went under too, have a lot of trouble because of just the quick, dramatic change in the biggest market in the United States, or what was traditionally the biggest market in the United States, which was the California solar market. It used to be half the solar in the country was in California. So,
Yeah, exactly. So I think this year everyone is waiting what's the outcome of the change on the Inflation Reduction Act, because that changed a lot of landscape on this industry.
Yeah, that's tough too. Yeah, they're changing the tariffs. You know, it's like, in fact, yesterday, you know, we were going to release this after we record it, but it was like yesterday, there's all these tariffs, and today there's not. And
Then
it's
you
almost
have China for 145%.
Yeah.
Basically stop any business relationship there.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, like how these things are just like making huge changes, and it's really affecting businesses, even people that are making things in America, because just like you were saying, there's nobody making wafers in America. Even when you buy an American car, there's some part of it that's made somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so it just makes it kind of difficult for everyone.
Will be a tough 2025.
Yep. Okay. Well, I'm just hoping that it's a lot of just talking, and it's not going to be a whole bunch of changing, that it will be stable in the long run. And, you know, when we zoom out, so when we look back upon 2025, when it's 2030, maybe we'll just go like, oh, wasn't that silly? You know, it all turned out okay. That's what I'm thinking. So
hopefully.
I happen to be what they call a chronic optimist. So no matter what happens, I'm going to try to look for the bright side. So
good for you.
Yeah, thanks. So let's see, any other things that you want to discuss?
I think that's about all. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Alex Zhu. And Alex is the CEO of ES Foundry, the leading U.S. solar cell manufacturer in the whole United States. I guess you could say that you're the leading U.S. solar cell manufacturer in the world, because we are qualifying it as being part of the U.S. So thanks a lot for being on the podcast. And for other people, if you want to learn more about solar, we did get educated about solar cells here, but you can go to solarsean.com and learn all about all the different aspects of solar. So thanks a lot, Alex. And it was great talking to you. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Sean.
And best of luck to you. And I hope that you produce billions of gigawatts of solar cells in the United States.